Hey friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Lawn Fawn Party Animals stamp set, and I won't be using any pattern paper because we're actually going to be making our own. But before we get to that step, I'm going to set that panel aside and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And we're going to work on our focal images. So I have this little fox and the bird with the party hat and an additional party hat and some silverware. And I'm going to start with coloring my fox. For him, I'm using YR04, YR07, and YR09. I'm starting with the YR09 and laying in my shadows. I typically prefer to color darkest to lightest unless it's a really big image. I find that it saves time and you pretty much get the same effect. So that's just the way that I personally enjoy it, but there's lots of different ways and none of them are right or wrong. So I'm blending out the YR09 with the YR07, saving some space for my lightest shade, which is going to be the YR04. I'm going to save that for my highlight and fill in most of the rest of his body. I am going to leave a little bit of white on his hands and feet or paws, whatever you want to call them, just to have like the little white socks. I thought that would be a nice touch and just give him a little bit of a different look and some more personality. So I'm going to finish him up, and then I will also use the YR04 to color in the little bird's beak, and I'll use the YR07 and YR04 to color in one of the stripes on the party hat. And then I'm going to bring in my background or my pattern paper. So pattern paper is one of my absolute favorite supplies in my craft room. I use it on the majority of my cards, but every once in a while you'll have a card idea in mind or maybe a specific color palette that you want to work with, and maybe you don't have anything in your stash that's going to match. So when that is the case, it can be really quick and easy to make your own. It was so simple to stamp this background out with using my Misty. I just centered everything in one corner, stamped it all down at once, and then shifted everything to the next corner, stamped it again. It was all done in like 2 minutes. Super fast and easy. And if I had wanted to, I could have stamped out a whole bunch of these panels and then colored them in different ways and had a whole stash of designer pattern paper that was custom made. But getting back to my coloring for now, I'm using some yellows to color in my little bird. Used Y11, Y13, and Y15. And then while I have those colors out, I'm also going to color some of my accessories. I'll do another stripe on my party hat. And then I'm going to begin to color in my pattern paper as well. And one tip to help this go super fast and to really make it look like pattern paper is to color all of the same image with the same shades. So I just colored in all my cake bases with those 3 shades of yellow, and now I'm using RV13, RV14, and RV17 to give my cakes some raspberry frosting. So as you go, you're just going really quickly through these images. They're all going to look consistent and they're going to go super fast. You can also save some time by cutting some corners with your design. For instance, on this particular card, I knew that I was going to have a circle focal panel in the center. So I took that die and traced it right where I wanted to put it. So I didn't have to bother stamping in that area or coloring in that area. I did make sure to overlap some of the images just a little bit to really give it that pattern paper feel. But for the majority of that center, I got to just leave that blank, and that's going to save me some time. Now I'm using some blue shades. I'm using BG01, BG02, and BG05 to color in my balloon, just leaving a little white highlight for a shine mark on that. And then I'm also going to use those same 3 shades to color in all of the ribbons on my gifts. The only area on my pattern paper that I decided to not be consistent with my color palette was on the balloons. I wanted that to be the one area where I have a different pop of color on each of those items. And since they are the largest image on the background by far, I think that it works. I've moved on to some purples. I'm using V15 and V17. I colored in one of the stripes and the pom-pom on the larger party hat and one of the polka dots on the little bird's party hat. And now I'm going to color in my gift wrap with those two shades. Normally I like to use 3 shades of markers, but I don't have a third one that really goes well with these two, and I think because the gifts are such a small area, I can get away with just the 2 shades. I'll use E53 and E55 to color in my ice cream cones. Also, if you noticed, I've kept all of my shadows on the right hand side, or in the case of the gifts on the bottom, and that also just keeps everything looking very consistent across the board. So now I'm using RV21 and RV23 for some strawberry ice cream, and then I'm going to go back in and color the rest of my balloons using some of those same shades from the rest of the images. To help this pattern paper look even more custom, I'm going to take a BG11 marker and just outline the right hand side of each of the images. I started out with just the images that I colored, but in the end I ended up even doing the little black stamped confetti just to give it a little more pop and help it lift off the page. This BG11 is such a pale shade that it's a really subtle effect that packs a lot of punch and just gives it that something extra. I used the Lawn Fawn stitched circle stackables to die cut a pale purple focal panel, and now I'm taking Lawn Fawn juice box ink and I'm going to stamp "Have a Sweet Birthday" to go with the cake and ice cream treats on our background, and that was from the Lawn Fawn Baked with Love stamp set. While I have my Misty out, I'm also going to stamp the inside of my card, and I'm using the little mini Year 3 set to stamp a slice of cake and the word smile. To begin assembling my card, I'm going to start by gluing my images to my focal panel using the Lawn Fawn glue tube to adhere down my little fox and my bird, and then I'm going to give the fox a party hat, and then I'm also going to add the silverware into his little paws to go along with our sentiment and our sweet treat card. So I just added the glue directly to his body and then set the images over top. I think that's the easiest way. I've die cut the custom pattern paper using the Lawn Fawn outside in stitch rectangle stackables. That gives it that nice stitching detail around the outside edge, and it trims off 1/8 of an inch border so that it shows my light purple cardstock right through on the edge. And then I'm going to pop my focal panel up in the center with some foam tape. Just make sure that's lined up nice and straight before I press that down into place. And I noticed that the party hat and my little bird had kind of shifted while I was putting on my foam tape. The glue wasn't quite dry, so I was able to just straighten those back up with my finger. That's one of the things I love about using liquid glue. And as a finishing touch, I'm going to take some Wink of Stella and add it to my balloons and to the frosting on my cakes, and then also to the little party hats for both of my critters. I'll lift that up so you can hopefully catch that sparkle and shine, but it's a pretty cloudy day in my craft room, so I'm not sure if it picked up on camera. And there's another peek at the inside. And that completes our card for today. Let me know down in the comments if you love using pattern paper like I do, and if you've ever made your own custom pattern paper, or if you would give it a try. If you enjoyed today's video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Here's 2 extra videos you may also be interested in, so hopefully those will tide you over until my next one. Until then, I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.